The Science of Learning Research Center presents Psychology, Education, Neuroscience, PEN. Penn Principle number 1. Written text and the spoken word do not mix.
An interesting fact. Human beings can really only pay attention to one person speaking at a time. Don't believe me? Well, let's try a little experiment. On this side of the screen, I'm going to read you a short poem. While on this side of the screen, I'm going to read you a different poem. Your job is to try and pay attention to us both. Ready? The winter owl bent just in time
languidness
to
that saps the
save
very breath of
herself
life.
from broken
Energy
window
that thrills,
glass.
fear
And
that
her
chills,
wide-winged
joy that
strains
burns,
suddenly
expectancy that
spread,
turns life
caught color
into one
from the last
long
of evening
quest.
red. Tricky, huh?
To understand why, let's take a look at the brain. When listening to somebody speak, the first part of your brain to activate is the bit which processes sound, and the next part to activate is the bit which processes language. This means when trying to listen to two people speak at once, both conversations are fighting for the same small amount of neural real estate.
But in a typical classroom, there's really only one person speaking at a time, right? So why does any of this matter? To find out why, let's play another game. As before, I'm going to verbally read you another short poem. But this time, on the screen, I'm going to put the words from a different poem. Your job is to try and listen to me while reading that poem at the same time. Ready?
His pursed lips would seep angelic smoke, and I would inhale it like it was second-hand death. Both of us speak like poetry books, and scar each other's tongues with limerick, with charcoal, with significance.
Not so easy. And the reason why might surprise you.
When reading, the first part of the brain to activate is the bit that processes vision, but almost immediately afterward, the bit that processes sound, and then the bit that processes language activate. This means that reading and listening to speech actually utilize the same brain regions.
So essentially, when you're silently reading, what you're really doing is just listening to yourself speak the words in your head. And to the brain, this is no different than trying to listen to somebody else speak out loud. But does any of this impact learning? Turns out it does.
When students are presented with both oral speech and written text at the same time, they must choose which to pay attention to. And anytime they try and jump back and forth between the two, they lose valuable information from both. In fact, researchers have demonstrated that students presented with a set of instructions in both oral and textual format simultaneously perform slower and less accurately than students presented with either one or the other. Classroom applications.
In short, it's incredibly difficult to try and listen to somebody speak while trying to read something at the same time. So how can we adapt this for the classroom?
One idea is to try to avoid using text-based material such as PowerPoint slides or writing on the chalkboard during an oral lecture. Another idea is to avoid distributing text-based handouts until after an oral lecture is complete. In this way, you can ensure students aren't trying to divvy their attention between reading and listening to you speak. In addition, when developing a computer-based lesson, it might be best to avoid including both oral and textual-based instructions simultaneously. Try to choose just one or the other. Ideas and future directions.
So, we've seen that listening to somebody speak and reading compete for the same brain areas, and that this competition impacts learning. But what about writing? Is it possible that writing competes for the same brain areas as well? And if so, what about note-taking? Is it possible that taking notes during a lecture will impact the way students perceive that lecture? Something to think about. On behalf of everyone at the Science of Learning Research Center, thanks for watching.